Don't drink it. My voice tore through the room. The USB clattered onto the metal table, its green light flickering like a heartbeat. On screen, wire transfers flashed open, encrypted messages labeled "Clean the Path," photos of Aiden, Liam, beneath a single word in cold type: executed. Gallagher froze. His hand hovered over the gun. Raphael stepped from the doorway, silent, unflinching, his men sealing every exit. Choose, Da, I said, eyes locked on the poisoned glass. Family, or the traitor. The drop of toxin trembled under the golden light. My father lowered the glass. Guns down, he rasped. The metallic click of safeties echoed. Gallagher's face drained of color. Outside, the Mississippi roared. Inside, history shifted, because one waitress dared to speak the truth. I am Maya Quinn, 21 years old, and this is Le Siren, where the ancient walls whisper stories of power and fame. Every night, I walk on this soft, hand-woven Persian rug, serving people who seem to live only by the breath of luxury. I do not belong to this opulent world. I am an ambitious linguistics and international relations student at Tulane University. My sole goal is to be invisible, to disappear. I want to escape from the scrutinizing eyes of a past I left behind, to escape from the real name I discarded, and to escape from a predetermined future that I resolutely reject. I am an elegant ghost, a tiny, easily replaceable cog in this luxurious machine. I earn enough money to maintain my dual student life, on one hand, a pursuer of knowledge and social justice, on the other, a nearly non-existent waitress, present only to meet the needs of others. I skillfully weave through candlelit couples, groups of businessmen discussing multi-million-dollar deals, and wealthy tourists reveling in the classic charm of the French Quarter. Every step I take is carefully calculated, every smile a perfect mask, concealing constant anxiety, a vague fear of a life on strings, and a burning desire for a free life that I abandoned everything to escape. I wear a calm exterior, but inside, a silent war constantly rages, a battle to hold on to my true identity and my dreams. Tonight, the invisibility I had strived to maintain for years is suddenly threatened by a special appearance, an appearance carrying both the weight of power and a hint of unspoken mystery. The most VIP table, where crystal light converges and the atmosphere thickens with deference, is reserved for Raphael De Luca. They say he is a cold businessman, an empire builder, a brilliant strategist, but his eyes conceal a sharpness, a depth, an intellect that I find difficult to fully comprehend. He is the embodiment of silent power, of absolute control, a man whose every gesture, every glance carries meaning, meticulously calculated. Beside him is his mother, Julia De Luca, a deaf woman. She possesses the unfading beauty of time, a gentleness emanating from the depths of her soul, and the refined demeanor of a true lady. She is a pure white camellia amidst the garden full of vibrant and thorny flowers of the underworld, a graceful contrast to the harsh world her son operates. For Raphael, his mother is not just a blood relative, but also the heart of the family, a constant reminder of compassion and morality in a world that often rejects it. Raphael was speaking with a man in a black suit, seemingly a bodyguard or senior advisor, but his eyes never left his mother, always following her every gesture with special attention. Julia gestured gently, with elegant and graceful movements, to a young waiter about the appetizer she was enjoying. She tried to express her satisfaction, but the surrounding waitstaff, despite trying to be polite, could only shake their heads apologetically with confused expressions. They were not trained in sign language. They only knew how to communicate verbally, with nods and professional smiles. Their helplessness made Julia sigh softly, a fleeting sadness passing through her eyes, like a thin cloud obscuring the moon on a starry night. Raphael, who had always discreetly watched his mother, noticed that gentle disappointment. He could have intervened, he could have called the manager, but he chose to silently observe. Perhaps he wanted to see what would happen next, a subtle test of the world around his mother, of strangers' ability to see and understand her. I was walking past Julia and Raphael's table with a tray of food in my hands when I accidentally caught Julia's eye. A fleeting hesitation crossed my face, a brief internal conflict. I saw the loneliness in her eyes, the separation that the language barrier had created, a strangely familiar feeling. It was an unexpected connection, transcending social and status boundaries, overcoming all barriers of the world. I took a deep breath, as if gathering all my courage. I carefully placed the tray of food on a nearby empty table, then walked over. Every step I took was closely watched by Raphael, his eyes sharp as razors, missing no small detail. No one asked, no one expected, but I, by an uncontrollable natural instinct, stepped forward. I didn't think about the consequences, didn't consider the risks or the unwritten rules of the restaurant. It was just a moment of pure empathy, an unspoken urge from the depths of my heart, an inexplicable impulse to connect. As I approached Julia, I smiled a genuine smile, a smile without pretense or calculation, without any ulterior motive, and began to sign. My fingers moved gracefully like tiny dancing birds, creating a dance of language in the silent air. Every movement was fluent, natural, and expressive, as if I had spoken with my hands since I learned to speak, as if sign language was my second mother tongue. It was a distinctive blended ASL dialect, bearing the imprint of the Boston area I had tried to leave behind, yet punctuated by the soft and emotional Italian signing strokes, creating a unique and beautiful combination, a silent melody that only those who understood could recognize. I leaned down slightly, my hazel eyes communicating directly with Julia's warm gaze. Julia was surprised. Then a radiant smile bloomed on her face, as if a warm ray of sunshine had just pierced through dark clouds, illuminating the entire room. She signed back emotionally, and a silent conversation, full of understanding and sharing, began between the two women, creating a private space amidst a crowded restaurant. "Hello, ma'am. Do you need any help? I see you seem to want to say something." "Oh, you are so kind. Thank you very much. I just wanted to tell them that the risotto here is absolutely delicious. It reminds me of Naples when I was a child, the taste of home, of beautiful childhood memories under the Mediterranean sun." "I understand. Chef Jean-Pierre's risotto is truly a culinary masterpiece, isn't it? I will convey your compliments to him immediately. I'm very happy that this dish brought back such beautiful memories for you. I also really like that dish." Julia smiled radiantly, her eyes filled with gratitude. She gently took my hand as an intimate gesture, an instant connection between two souls. The entire dining room paused, like a painting frozen mid-stroke. Surprise enveloped the luxurious space. The smallest whispers grew loud in the sudden silence. A waitress, a hidden linguistics student, could communicate so naturally and subtly with Madame Julia DeLuca, the mother of one of New Orleans' most powerful and mysterious men. I, who had spent my entire life trying to be unremarkable, to blend into the crowd, was now the center of all eyes. Raphael DeLuca, from the very first moment I approached, had watched my every move with the intense focus of a predator. His gaze was sharp, as if wanting to penetrate my soul, and at the same time analyzing every minute detail, every gesture, every expression on my face. His curiosity was mixed with deep vigilance, because in his world, nothing was accidental, and every unusual action, every unexpected appearance, harbored a story, a motive, a threat. A waitress who knew ASL fluently, especially an ASL that seemed strange and unique, one he had never seen, was an anomaly that could not be overlooked, an enigmatic bright spot in the dark canvas of his world. He had seen the change in his mother's eyes, from quiet, a little lonely, to radiant, something rare in public places where she often felt isolated. And that made me either particularly dangerous or particularly valuable, a factor not to be ignored in his calculations. In that moment, amidst the glittering crystal lights of Le Siren, under curious and judgmental eyes, my fate, Maya Quinn, took a completely unexpected turn. I had been seen, and that could change everything. My brief conversation with Julia had sparked an irrepressible curiosity in Raphael. Immediately after his mother and he left the restaurant, he asked the manager to call me to his private office, not to reprimand or admonish, but to question, to seek answers. He wasted no time on polite introductions or meaningless small talk. His eyes were an open book to those who understood him, yet contained thousands of secret pages that few could read. In Raphael's world, all information was power, and a waitress who knew sign language fluently was a potential source of information, an enigma to be deciphered. His curiosity didn't just stop at why I knew ASL, but how I knew it, about the origin and depth of that knowledge. I sat on the edge of the opposite chair, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, trying to appear calm, but my anxiety was evident in every line of my face. I constantly licked my lips, my eyes frequently darting around the room, searching for an invisible escape, a foothold to escape his scrutinizing gaze. Young lady, the way you signed with my mother. It's unique. I've never seen anyone use such an Italian-blended ASL dialect here. It's not something one learns from a regular course at Tulane, is it? Or from a standard textbook. It carries a history, a distinct flow. I study linguistics, sir. ASL is part of my major. I've spent a lot of time researching different dialects, cultural nuances, regional variations of it. I'm passionate about it. And the Boston slips. I noticed. Quite obvious. You're not from New Orleans, are you? Or at least, not born and raised here. Your accent, though carefully concealed by slow and clear speech, occasionally reveals itself, like an underground current difficult to hide. Like an old scar, though healed, it's still there, a reminder of an indelible past. I flinched, my eyes wide with astonishment and fear. I had tried my best to conceal my origins, to bury my past under the guise of an ordinary student, a stranger with nothing special. But Raphael, through just a few signed sentences and a hint of intonation in my speech, had seen through a part of the truth, had pierced the mask I had painstakingly built. The anxiety within me surged rapidly, like an underground wave churning inside, threatening to engulf me. I lived in Boston for a while, before coming to Tulane, just for a short time. Enough time to absorb a distinctive sign language dialect and a characteristic accent in your speech. Also enough to create an interesting reflex, an indelible identifier, especially for those who know how to look. Every time I mention certain names, O'Rourke or Gallagher, your tense reaction is very clear, especially the way you suddenly stiffen, your eyes unconsciously narrowing, as if you just heard a sudden gunshot in the dark night. You can hide your voice, hide your gestures, but you cannot hide your instinct, the unconditional reaction of your body. What do those names mean to you? Maya Quinn? Or should I call you O'Rourke? Patrick O'Rourke's daughter. My whole body collapsed. My face was pale, devoid of any blood. My eyes were wide open, full of horror and despair, as if I had just faced my worst nightmare. I clenched my hands so tightly that my fingernails dug into my palms, feeling a sharp pain but unable to relax my grip. The invisible mask I had painstakingly built for years suddenly shattered before Raphael's sharp gaze, vanishing like smoke. I gasped for breath, as if plunged into icy water. The entire room seemed to sway around me. The outside noise grew distant, everything blurred, leaving only Raphael's gaze and the harsh truth being exposed. I had run away from this life, but this life seemed to never let me go, always finding a way to pull me back. You. Who are you? How do you know those names? Why do you know? Don't worry about who I am, young lady. You should worry about who you are, and why you are here, under a false name, with a lurking past, a past you tried to bury. Patrick O'Rourke. He's your father, isn't he? The head of the Irish gang, one of my family's oldest and most formidable rivals. A kingpin with extensive connections and a criminal empire. I gave up, all strength seemingly leaving me. I bowed my head, my dark brown hair partially concealing my face. Tears began to stream down my cheeks, fear and resentment surging uncontrollably, like a broken dam. This was the moment I was completely exposed, a truth I had tried to bury deepest in my soul. Tears flowed incessantly, but I didn't try to wipe them away. I had lived in fear for too long, and now, It had erupted. Yes, I am Maya O'Rourke, Patrick O'Rourke's daughter. My family intended to marry me off to one of my father's henchmen, a brutal, cruel man named Sean Gallagher, to solidify their alliance. A forced marriage, a life shackled in a criminal world I detested, a future I could not accept. I ran away. I gave up everything, cut off contact with my family, changed my name, to live a normal, free life, a life I could choose for myself. My father disowned me. He said I shamed the family, that I betrayed him by refusing my destiny. He will never forgive me. And now, he will never stop until he finds me. I am a shadow, a mistake in his ledger, a stain to be erased. Raphael listened to my every word, his eyes remaining calm, without a hint of judgment or emotion. But there was a flicker in his eyes, an indescribable understanding, a recognition from someone in a similar situation. He didn't judge, didn't show surprise. For him, this was just another piece of the complex puzzle he was trying to complete, a part of the story he had anticipated. My frankness seemed to have impressed him. So you ran away from one empire, only to accidentally step into another. An irony of fate, isn't it? I see. And I also understand why you know Italian blended ASL. Your mother is probably Italian, or of Italian descent, who passed that sign language on to you. A connection to the past that you cannot completely sever, even when you try your best to deny it, to bury it. My mother is Irish, but she lived in Italy for a long time before meeting my father. She learned ASL from a deaf community in Naples, where she found empathy and connection. And that's how she communicated with me when I was little, when my father was too busy with his work, too immersed in his world. She was the only one who truly saw me in that family, who understood me without words, like your mother. A long silence ensued. I realized I had said too much, revealed too many emotions and secrets. I regretted it, but couldn't take back the words spoken. Raphael nodded slightly, accepting that information as part of the story, an important piece of the puzzle. He reached out, placing a thick cream-colored envelope, made of high-quality paper, on the table. The thick envelope was clearly not a normal server's wage, but a large sum of money. This is tonight's tip. It's a bit larger than usual. Consider it a reward for your honesty. I looked at the envelope with skepticism and confusion. I didn't understand. Was this a trap? A bribe? A veiled threat? Raphael pushed the envelope towards me decisively, revealing a small piece of paper clipped underneath, a piece of paper made of the same high-quality paper as the envelope. And this is a message. From my mother. She wants you to know this. I cautiously took the paper. The elegant, soft handwriting, written in black ink, contained only a few simple words, but touched my heart deeply and unexpectedly. Thank you for seeing my mother. You brought her joy on a lonely night. She will not forget that. I looked up, my eyes meeting Raphael's. He still didn't show much emotion, but there was an indescribable sincerity, a subtle respect in his eyes. I had expected a threat, exploitation, an accusation, but instead, I received recognition, gratitude, and an unspoken connection. It melted a part of the defensive wall I had painstakingly built for years. Money, status, power. Those things could not buy the connection I had given Julia, and that was what Raphael had realized. He didn't want to exploit my weakness, at least not at this moment. He wanted something else, something I couldn't fully comprehend yet. But I knew my life, Maya Quinn, daughter of Patrick O'Rourke, was no longer my own. It had been inevitably drawn into the vortex of the DeLuca family. The door to a new world, full of danger yet also full of promise, had opened before me. I was no longer invisible. After the fateful encounter with Raphael DeLuca, my days at Les Sirènes became heavier than ever. I no longer felt invisible. Every glance from the manager, every ringing phone, every opening door, made my heart pound, like a trapped fledgling. Raphael's warning about the lurking past had sown a seed of fear in my heart, and now it was sprouting, growing daily, transforming into an ancient tree with thorny branches engulfing my mind. I knew, in the worlds of my family, no one could escape permanently, no one could completely sever the blood ties. A name, a face, a memory, all could lead to the return of darkness, of relentless hunters. And tonight, under the pouring rain, that darkness began to materialize, no longer a vague threat but a terrifying reality. I was wiping tables with unusual anxiety, my hands trembling slightly. I kept glancing out the window, my eyes narrowed, trying to peer through the rain, as if expecting something terrible to happen. The sound of rain falling sounded like the footsteps of approaching fate, each drop carrying a warning. Customers were still scarcer than usual due to the bad weather, making the restaurant seem emptier, and every small sound became terrifyingly clear, amplifying the fear in my heart. The bar door gently opened, a cold gust of wind and the damp smell of rain poured in, carrying with it the chill of the Mississippi River. A tall, burly man, with a cold face and eyes sharp as razors, walked in. He had short, closely cropped black hair, an old scar running along his temple, and a scraggly goatee. His black leather jacket was soaked, but the vest underneath was frighteningly neat, exuding the appearance of an organized and ruthless individual. It was Kieran Doyle, one of the most notorious enforcers of the Irish faction, the right-hand man of Sean Gallagher, my former almost fiancé. He slowly scanned the dining room, each glance sweeping over every face, like a crow searching for prey in a field. When I saw him, I nearly dropped the wiping cloth in my hand. A small gasp caught in my throat. The blood in my veins seemed to freeze. Every pulse stopped. He had arrived. Kieran Doyle. That name, once a whisper behind closed doors in the O'Rourke family, a name associated with brutality and bloody payoffs, was now the embodiment of ultimate terror for me. He was not a stranger to me. He was the embodiment of brutality, of the world I had resolutely abandoned, a world I had done everything to escape. He walked straight to the bar, his eyes scanning the dining tables coldly, pausing briefly on me, his gaze meeting mine for just an instant, then moving on indifferently. A calculated disregard, an unspoken warning, an affirmation that he had found me without needing to speak. Give me a Jameson, and a little information, if you can provide it. I believe information is worth more than whiskey, isn't it? I'm not asking about the girl working here. I'm asking about the girl in the photo. A student named Maya Quinn. Has anyone seen her recently? A beautiful girl, brown hair. It seems she likes luxurious places like this. Perhaps a regular customer of this restaurant? Do you think so? I tried to breathe steadily, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. He didn't say my name directly. He was playing a cruel cat-and-mouse game. He was probing, warning. He wanted me to know that he had found me, that my every move was within his sight, that I had nowhere left to hide. The dark sedan outside the main door, perfectly parked to observe all entrances and exits, was not a coincidence. It was an unspoken threat, an affirmation of their absolute power and control. I felt as if an invisible rope was tightening around my neck, little by little, making it hard to breathe. The normal world I had tried to build was crumbling, little by little, under the cold raindrops and the lurking eyes of the enemy. Maya, someone is asking for you. He doesn't seem right. I think you should be careful. It's all right, manager. I'll handle this. She seems a bit tired. Let her go home early. Don't let the customers wait. The kitchen hallway, back door, connects to the adjacent building. A black SUV is waiting there. Carlo will take you. Don't hesitate. This phone, only for contact. Only with me. Go with Carlo to the SUV. I'll take care of the rest here. Don't turn back. Don't look back. I was confused, my eyes full of panic and despair. Classes, assignments, roommate, final exam schedule, all the familiar, mundane things in my life suddenly collapsed, vanishing like soap bubbles. I couldn't believe everything happened so fast, that I was being pulled back into this terrifying vortex. I wanted to protest, to explain, to cling to my last bit of normalcy. But my classes, my roommate, my final exam schedule. I can't just leave everything like this. I have a presentation on Monday, a test on Wednesday. I can't do that. Extension requests have been sent to all your professors. Your roommate has been informed that you have a family emergency and had to leave urgently. Everything you care about, I have taken care of. No need to worry about that anymore. If you go out the front door tonight, they will erase you. No trace. No witnesses. Nothing left. Do you think they will go easy on Patrick O'Rourke's runaway daughter? Do you think they won't turn you into a message for your father? Think carefully, Maya. This is your life. I had no choice. Raphael's words were like a splash of cold water to my face, waking me from the illusion of a normal life, a life I had tried so hard to build. Fear had become reality, and the instinct for survival surged powerfully. I nodded unconsciously, my eyes vacant. Carlo led me away. Every step I took in the kitchen hallway was heavy, as if I was walking on a fated path, a path from which there was no turning back. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. I had stepped into a world I had tried to escape, and now I had to fight to survive in it. The shadow from Boston had found me, but a New Orleans kingpin had decided to protect me. The game had changed, and I, Patrick O'Rourke's daughter, had become a crucial piece in a much larger game. 3 weeks passed in complete isolation. The house by Lake Pontchartrain was a heavily guarded safe house, a warm cocoon separated from the dangerous world outside, from the pursuit of the O'Rourke family and the chaos of New Orleans. But for me, it was also a prison without walls, a refuge I never wanted, a confinement hidden within natural beauty. I was accustomed to the hustle and bustle of the city, to intense study sessions, to the free life I had fought to win. Now, everything had been cruelly taken away. I was a prisoner of circumstance, a woman trapped between two worlds, between two rival families vying for power. But in that isolation, an unexpected relationship blossomed, an invisible yet strong bond, a ray of light in the dark night. I sat by the large window, looking out at the calm lake. 3 weeks living in isolation, in a world completely alien to my busy student life. My hair had grown a little longer, falling loosely on my shoulders. My face seemed thinner, but my eyes had lost their initial panic, replaced by deep contemplation and a touch of sadness. I wore simple, comfortable cotton clothes, no longer looking like a waitress or a student. No more waitress uniform, no more textbooks, only silence, loneliness, and endless waiting. My fingers caressed the rim of the still warm coffee cup, as if searching for reassurance. Julia DeLuca, Raphael's mother, appeared from the kitchen, carrying 2 steaming cups of herbal tea. She walked over and sat beside me on the upholstered armchair, smiling warmly. She didn't say a word, but her presence brought a comforting energy, a spreading peace. She began to sign, telling me stories. Julia was also a prisoner of circumstance, trapped in her son's world, within the barriers of silence, but she found solace in sharing memories, stories, fragments of her life. You know, Raphael was very stubborn as a child. Always wanted to do everything his own way, never blindly obeying. He had a strong will, an independent spirit, but he was also a chivalrous child with a big heart, always trying to protect the weaker, the abandoned. I remember once, he was only 7 years old, he stood up to protect a stray cat that neighborhood children were teasing and throwing stones at. His hand was scratched and bleeding profusely, but he didn't give up, still determined to protect that small animal. I'm not surprised to hear that. He has a cold, distant exterior, but I've seen how he protected me. He's not an unfeeling person. Our world. It's not easy for people with compassion. It sees compassion as a weakness, something that can be exploited. My son always had to find a way to keep his compassion in a world that saw compassion as a weakness, a burden. He had to learn to hide it, to protect it from being destroyed. He had to appear tough, cold, to survive, to protect those he loved. Julia continued to tell stories about Raphael, about his childhood, about the difficulties she had experienced raising him in a family where honor and power were often placed above all else, where every mistake came at a high price. I listened attentively, feeling a deep connection with Julia, an empathy between two women who had endured much loss and pain. Two women, one deaf, one hunted, found solace in each other. Sign language became a bridge, a means to share the most intimate things, the deepest feelings without needing to speak them aloud. Through Julia's emotionally charged sign stories, I began to see a different Raphael DeLuca, not the cold, calculating kingpin, but a stubborn boy with a warm heart, a man who had to grow up too soon in a world full of danger and brutality. Julia shared the fears of a mother, the hopes of a woman who had lost her voice, and the burdens of a powerful family. Each story was a piece of the puzzle, helping me better understand the man who had saved me and the world I was being drawn into. The safe house door opened, and Raphael walked in. He looked tired and exhausted, with a small, roughly bandaged cut on his eyebrow and bruised knuckles, signs of a relentless struggle. His shirt was slightly wrinkled, and a gloomy expression covered his face, a clear tension and fatigue in his eyes. He held a thin laptop and a thick stack of documents in his hands. "Hello, Mother. Maya. I have news. Not very good news." Julia and I looked at him with concern. I knew this was the moment the truth would be revealed, a truth that could change everything, a truth I had awaited with a mix of fear and curiosity. "I've gathered enough evidence. Sean Gallagher. He's not just a traitor, an ambitious man. He's a venomous snake, hiding under the guise of loyalty. I've been tracking him for months, and what I found is worse than anything I anticipated. He's allied with a notorious Eastern European gang, specialists in drug and arms trafficking. A dirty alliance, built on brutality and insatiable greed. They're using our shrimp boats, vessels originally used for legitimate seafood transport, to smuggle fentanyl. A massive amount, tons of drugs, passing through New Orleans ports, then spreading throughout the South, destroying thousands of lives. A new drug empire, built on betrayal, on blood and tears. Gallagher is building his own empire by undermining what your father tried to maintain. And it doesn't stop there. He signed the order to clear the path. Clearing the path for the expansion of drug trafficking. Through assassination. Who was the first person he assassinated? Your brothers, Maya, Aiden and Liam. They were killed a few months ago, in a perfectly orchestrated internal settlement, a case meticulously covered up so no one would suspect. But it wasn't an internal settlement. It was Gallagher eliminating obstacles in his path, those who could hinder his plans. Your brothers. Aiden. Liam. No way. He killed my brothers? It wasn't an accident? He also has a log tracking you. Your every move. Lecture halls, coffee shops, libraries, restaurants. Everywhere. He knows you're in New Orleans. He knows what you're doing. He's been watching you for a very long time, waiting for the right moment to strike. And that night, at Le Cyr Inn, he sent Doyle to remind you, to gauge your reaction, before making his move. He doesn't just want you back. He wants to eliminate you permanently, because you know too much, and you are a threat to his plans. My eyes stung. I could no longer see clearly around me. Fear, pain, indignation, all surged chaotically within me. I felt as if a rock was pressing heavily on my chest, unable to breathe. I had run away from home, from the fate of a pawn in the family's power game. I had believed I was freeing myself, that I was building a new, free life. But the harsh reality was, I had only run from one trap to another, from one prison to another. I couldn't escape that game. I only became a hostage, a pawn unaware of being a pawn, on the chessboard of the traitor, Sean Gallagher, a man even more ruthless than my father. I ran away to escape that fate, to not become my father's pawn. But I became a hostage on the traitor's board. He killed my brothers. He tracked me. He intended to kill me. He won't let me go. Julia hugged me, signing unspoken words of comfort, gently stroking my hair. Raphael looked at me, his eyes full of empathy, but also full of determination and an iron will. He knew I was suffering, but he also knew this truth was necessary. I needed to know to fight, to survive. And more than that, to change everything, to end this cycle of violence. The truth, revealed, brought not only pain, but also purpose, a new fire in my soul. Pain and indignation enveloped me. My entire life had been a series of efforts to escape the shadow of my family, to determine my own destiny, to write a different story. But now, I realized that all my efforts were in vain. I was just a pawn on the chessboard of the powerful, a commodity that could be bought, sold, or killed at any moment. But in the depths of despair, a flicker of light appeared, a spark of revenge, of the will to fight. I could not accept this fate. I would not let Sean Gallagher win. And Raphael DeLuca, the kingpin of the rival family, might be the only one who could help me rewrite my destiny, not just for myself, but also for those I loved. The truth, revealed, brought not only pain, but also purpose, a powerful motivation to act. The brutal truth about Sean Gallagher ignited a fire of indignation within me, but also brought a clear purpose, a reason to fight. I was no longer a helpless victim pushed by fate, but a newly awakened warrior, with an unshakable will. And Raphael, with his composure and sharp analytical skills, transformed that anger into a concrete, meticulously detailed plan of action. We had only one chance. A single chance to stop an all-out war that could devastate New Orleans, to expose the traitor and his lies, and to redeem irreparable losses. Every minute that passed was a race against death, with the future of the entire city resting on our shoulders. I stood beside Raphael, my eyes no longer showing fear, but instead intense focus and iron determination. I had overcome the pain to turn it into strength. Raphael looked at me, his gaze full of respect and unspoken trust. Hot news. Gallagher just sent an invitation to Patrick O'Rourke. A sit-down to resolve misunderstandings and strengthen the alliance. At warehouse number 7 by the Mississippi River. Tomorrow night at sunset. He has meticulously calculated the time and location. This is a trap. I've analyzed every factor, every move Gallagher has made over the past few weeks. He wants to eliminate Patrick, blame my family, and ignite an all-out war between the two families, a war that could last for decades. He wants to create a power vacuum, a chaos so he can climb up and seize control of the entire empire. He will poison Patrick. Skillfully, leaving no clear traces, using a slow-acting or hard-to-detect poison. And then, he will have the perfect excuse to declare war on us, with the support of the Eastern European group he is allied with. Mr. Raphael, we cannot let that happen. A war between DeLuca and O'Rourke will devastate the entire city. It will lead to unforeseen consequences, innocent deaths, endless chaos. New Orleans will turn into a battlefield. Exactly. And that's why we will stop it. Our plan must be perfect. No room for error, no room for hesitation. Everything must proceed exactly as planned. My men will seal off all exits from the warehouse. From land, by blockading the access roads, and from the river, by using covert patrol boats. No one can enter or exit without being detected. We will create an invisible, yet impenetrable, perimeter. We will not attack, not shed unnecessary blood, but only blockade, to control the situation and ensure no one can interfere from outside. You, Maya, will go in first. Meet your father. You are his daughter. He won't expect you to appear there at that moment. That is our only advantage, the unpredictable element of surprise. You will give him this USB. It contains everything. Irrefutable evidence of Gallagher's betrayal. His dealings with the Eastern European group, the assassination orders, especially the murder of your brothers, Aiden and Liam. And most importantly, his plan to eliminate Patrick tonight step by step, detail by detail. You must ensure he sees it. He must see the truth with his own eyes. That is the only way he will believe. And you? Where will you be? If something happens, I will be very close. Outside, in the shadows, in a strategic position to observe and react as quickly as possible, ready to intervene if things get out of control, if the plan deviates in any way. I will not let anything happen to you, Maya, or to my mother, or to this city. We have come too far to fail. I nodded, took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I looked at the USB, then at Raphael. There was one thing I needed to say, a condition I had to set. Not just for myself, but for what I believed in, for a better future for everyone. I have one condition. After tonight, if we are still alive, if the plan succeeds, you must fund free community ASL classes. In poor neighborhoods, places where people don't have the means to learn, where deaf people are often neglected, and a fund to support victims of gang violence. Not just to save my family, not just for personal gain, but also to mend the tears in the community, the deep wounds that people like my father, like Gallagher, have created with their violence and crimes. I don't want a normal life just for myself. I want a better life for everyone, for New Orleans, for those who have suffered. All right, Maya. I agree. I promise. If we are still alive after tonight, a nod from Raphael, a promise exchanged. The atmosphere remained tense, but a flicker of hope emerged, a belief in a better future. We were betting everything. The fate of 2 families, the fate of the city of New Orleans, and our own fates, all depended on this plan. I had accepted my role. I would not only save my father from a trap, but also try to atone for an entire world, to bring a little justice and peace. Tonight, at the warehouse by the Mississippi River, everything would be decided. The confrontation was not just between gangs, but also between light and darkness, between betrayal and loyalty, between destruction and hope. The fateful night arrived, bringing with it the cold breath of the river and the scent of betrayal. At the neutral warehouse by the Mississippi River, a sit-down had been arranged, but it was not a peace negotiation or a compromise. It was a stage meticulously prepared for betrayal, a trap set with cunning and cruelty. The smell of salt and fish, the damp scent of the great river, all mingled in the heavy air, as if the very space was holding its breath, awaiting the moment of explosion, the moment when fate would be decided. I was hidden in a position meticulously calculated by Raphael, feeling my heart pound incessantly, like a bird trapped in a cage, trying to escape. I had staked everything on tonight, my entire life and the future of my family. Inside the warehouse, Patrick O'Rourke, my father, was sitting opposite Sean Gallagher. Gallagher, still maintaining his usual polite and confident demeanor, but his eyes concealed malice and a hint of glee. They were sitting around an old metal table, on which rested an expensive bottle of single malt whiskey, 2 sparkling glass tumblers, and a few transaction documents casually placed. Both men had several tall, strong bodyguards standing behind them, their eyes sharp as razors, vigilant of every movement around them, their hands resting loosely on their waists, ready to draw their guns at any moment. Outside, in the shadows of giant shipping containers and the narrow alley leading to the river, Raphael and his men were waiting, each in a strategic position, ready to act on signal. So, Sean, you said there were misunderstandings to be resolved between us. I've come, as agreed. Now speak. Explain what you want me to hear. Yes, Patrick. There are always those who want to undermine our cooperation, those who want to sow suspicion. The DeLucas, they are trying to divide us, trying every way to weaken your empire. Have a drink, Patrick. To mend, to strengthen our alliance, to clear up all misunderstandings. Gallagher turned his back to my father skillfully and naturally, creating a perfect blind spot, his hand quickly sliding into his inner vest pocket. A small, colorless, odorless vial was taken out, and in just an instant, a few drops of mysterious liquid were added to my father's whiskey glass. He quickly put the vial away, then turned back with a completely calm expression, without a trace of anxiety or guilt, as if nothing had just happened. My father, unsuspecting, reached out to pick up the glass of whiskey, his eyes still full of contemplation. This was a slow-acting poison. He wanted my father to die slowly, a natural death so no one would suspect. That was the moment. The moment of hidden truth, of trust betrayed in the cruelest way. Gallagher, with his cunning and cruelty, had acted perfectly. He had calculated everything. But he had not accounted for one factor, a factor he had tried to eliminate from this life, an unexpected element not in his plan. Don't drink it. Da. Don't drink it. It's poison. My father flinched, his old eyes widening when he saw me. Extreme surprise, anger, and even a hint of pain flashed across his face, a complex emotion between bewilderment and recognition. I pushed the USB onto the table, my eyes burning with hatred at Gallagher, as if wanting to incinerate him. He's poisoning you, Father. He killed Aiden and Liam, my brothers. He's allied with the Eastern European gang to smuggle fentanyl through our port. This USB contains all the evidence. Look, Father. A small screen automatically lit up from the USB, specially designed to automatically display the most important data files. Huge transfer orders to foreign accounts, clear encrypted messages ordering the clearing of the path by assassinating Aiden, my youngest brother, and a detailed plan for eliminating my father tonight, clearly recorded under Gallagher's name, along with recorded phone calls. The entire room seemed to explode. Gallagher's and my father's bodyguards immediately drew their weapons, preparing for an inevitable fight. Gallagher, his face pale with horror and the truth exposed, frantically snatched the USB, desperately trying to destroy the evidence. He knew this was the end for him. The scene erupted in a moment of chaos. The truth was exposed in a flash, shattering all disguises, all falsehoods, all conspiracies laid out. The clatter of weapons being cocked echoed in the warehouse, creating a suffocatingly tense atmosphere. Gallagher, who had once been confident in his perfect plan, was now panicking, desperately trying to erase the evidence. But it was too late. Raphael DeLuca's eyes had seen everything. Just then, Raphael stepped out of the shadows, his gun locked onto Gallagher coldly and precisely, without a hint of hesitation. He didn't say a word, but his presence was enough to shift the balance of power, freezing all movement. Raphael's men, fully armed and skilled, also emerged from their hidden positions, sealing off all exits, pointing their guns at Gallagher's men. Raphael didn't come to wage war. He came to control, to end this chaos. I advise you to stop, Sean. That evidence has already been backed up in multiple places. And we have more evidence as well. Everything has been exposed. My father, with the seasoned face and cold eyes of a kingpin who had endured countless battles, looked at the evidence on the screen. He saw his son's name, Aiden, next to the murder order. He saw the betrayal of the man he had trusted, considered a son, and given much power to. His eyes became vacant, then slowly grew cold, like ice forming on frigid winter days. A deep disappointment, a suppressed rage, erupted. This was not just about power, but also about family, about trust betrayed in the cruelest way, by the very person he had entrusted his faith to. It's over, Sean. You've gone too far. Don't move. Drop your weapons, everyone. Arrest Sean Gallagher and the traitors. They have betrayed us. A few sporadic gunshots from Gallagher's men, attempting to resist, but they were quickly overwhelmed by my father's and Raphael's men. A large-scale war did not erupt. There was no all-out bloodbath, only an internal purge, carried out under the witness and control of a rival family. My father's choice changed everything. He chose to stand with his daughter, to stand with the truth, to stand with peace. I looked at my father, my eyes filled with mixed emotions, pain, relief, and a new flicker of hope, an unexpected redemption. Raphael looked at me, a slight smile on his lips, an unspoken affirmation that we had succeeded. The confrontation at the docks did not end in a bloody war that everyone predicted, a war that could have plunged New Orleans into a sea of fire. Instead, it ended with a choice. The choice of a betrayed father, a man who had to face the harsh truth about those he had trusted. Patrick O'Rourke did not ignite a war. He extinguished it. He switched sides on the spot, ordering his son and loyal men to drop their weapons, and arrested the traitor. A silent revolution had taken place within the Irish family, driven by the courage of a girl and the calculation of a kingpin. The plan had succeeded. 6 months had passed since the fateful night at the docks. 6 months was enough for New Orleans to begin writing a new chapter, a chapter less violent, more hopeful, and full of stories of change. Old boundaries, the lines of hatred and power, had begun to blur, giving way to new bridges built with understanding and compassion. A beautiful sunny morning at an ancient church with red brick walls and sparkling stained glass windows in the Bywater district, New Orleans. Light streamed through the stained glass windows, creating vibrant patches of color on the polished wooden floor. I, no longer the shy waitress or reclusive student, now stood before a group of people, smiling and using sign language confidently, gracefully, and with great enthusiasm. I wore a simple turquoise cotton dress, my hair falling naturally on my shoulders. I exuded a mature beauty, peace, and a new vitality. The small key around my neck sparkled in the sunlight, a symbol of the freedom I had found. Patrick O'Rourke was no longer in New Orleans. He had retreated to Ireland, handing over power to my eldest brother, Connor, who had proven his loyalty, foresight, and desire for peace. A peace testament, signed in blood rather than ink, had been established between the new O'Rourke family under Connor's leadership and the DeLuca house, ending decades of animosity and bloodshed. Gallagher had vanished from the map, leaving no trace. There was no noisy assassination in the press, no official announcement. Only whispers among the dock workers, whispers full of warning and implication. Some betrayals have only one verdict: a mysterious disappearance, a silent yet powerful deterrent for anyone intending to betray or disrupt the peace. The anonymous waitress Maya Quinn had now become an icon, a symbol of hope and change. I no longer had to run, no longer had to hide in the shadows. I was teaching free ASL classes at the church in Bywater, a developing neighborhood, once a difficult area rife with social ills. The class was cleverly disguised as a drawing or craft class for neighbors, but in reality, it was a safe space for everyone to learn sign language, a way to connect, to listen to forgotten voices, to break down communication barriers. There were elderly neighbors with gentle smiles, young mothers holding their children, energetic children with curious eyes. And, surprisingly, there were a few tall, burly men in black suits, sitting at the back of the class, diligently learning to sign, sometimes clumsily with their large fingers. They were some of Raphael's brothers, bodyguards, protectors, now also learning to communicate silently, learning to understand the world differently. It was a powerful symbol of change, of integration, of the gradual crumbling of dividing walls. Welcome everyone to our class. Today, we will learn how to sign simple phrases to greet and introduce ourselves. Are you ready? Let's practice together. Everyone in the class, including Raphael's brothers, smiled and began to practice signing after me, the atmosphere filled with joy and excitement. And every weekend, Julia DeLuca ran her own silent cafe club, a peaceful sanctuary, a space of understanding, where deaf and hearing people could meet, conversing with their hands instead of the noise of the outside world. Soft laughter, nods, stories told through the graceful movements of hands. It was a space of empathy and connection, a testament to the power of sign language and to the change these individuals had brought to the community. Julia, with her gentle and refined beauty, was signing with a few others, her eyes filled with joy and serenity. She smiled, small wrinkles visible at the corners of her eyes. Raphael occasionally stopped by, sitting next to his mother, quietly observing, a slight smile on his lips. He said nothing, but that smile spoke volumes about what he felt. He had witnessed the change, and he was a part of it, no longer an outsider. The port city of New Orleans, once known for its underground wars, dark secrets, and ethnic divisions, was now witnessing a new dawn. A dawn where boundaries were defined not by blood and power, but by understanding and compassion. Raphael and I, two people from opposing worlds, had together created something impossible. We had built a bridge, a new boundary, where people could find a common voice, even without speaking. A New Orleans was slowly taking shape, a city of hope and reconciliation. Amidst the tranquility and serene beauty of the DeLuca garden, a love had blossomed, an understanding had been forged, and a redemption had been found. Not through flowery vows or empty promises, but through concrete actions, day by day, little by little, we had forged a different future, a future we once thought impossible. In a peaceful corner of the garden, under the shade of a large oak tree, Julia DeLuca sat on a moss-covered marble bench, smiling gently. She was patiently teaching sign language to a group of tall, strong DeLuca family bodyguards. These men, with their stern exteriors, now clumsily mimicked Julia's graceful movements, trying to learn each sign seriously but also with curiosity. It was a meaningful image, symbolizing the change within the very heart of the DeLuca Empire, a transformation from violence to understanding. Power was not just violence, but also understanding and connection. Raphael walked over, carrying 2 steaming hot cups of coffee, the aroma of coffee spreading. He wore a white linen shirt, no longer looking as tense and cold as before. His face now exuded peace and happiness. He sat down next to me, who was watching Julia and the bodyguards with a contented smile and eyes sparkling with joy. Raphael gently took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine softly, full of affection and trust. This was a simple gesture, yet it spoke volumes about everything we had overcome together, a love built on understanding and courage. Your coffee. Were you up late reading and researching again last night? I saw your room light was still on. Yes. I'm researching a new project for our community fund. We can expand the classes to neighboring rural areas of New Orleans. More people need it than I thought. You know, they also want to be seen. Raphael DeLuca's new ethos was no longer about expanding the port empire at all costs, through shady means. He had shifted focus, cutting off crude, violent activities, instead concentrating on clean logistics, on legitimate and sustainable business projects, bringing real benefits to the community. And most importantly, the community fund co-designed by me. A significant portion of the profits from DeLuca's legitimate business activities was channeled into educational, health, and community support programs, especially ASL classes and the Fund for Victims of Gang Violence, exactly as per the condition I had set. It was a way to atone for a past full of mistakes, a way to build a better future for New Orleans, a different legacy, not of blood and violence, but of hope and development. If that day at Les Sirènes, I hadn't seen your mother, hadn't stepped forward to sign with her, everything would be very different, wouldn't it? Perhaps I would have been taken by Doyle, or worse. My father might have been harmed by Gallagher without anyone knowing. New Orleans might have been plunged into a brutal, endless gang war. Different. Certainly very different. Maya. But not necessarily better. Sometimes, a small act of kindness, a right choice at the right time, can change the entire course of history. You didn't just save my mother. You saved an entire city from destruction. And you showed me that there is another path to take, another way to live, a way to redefine power and success. Just then, at the mansion gate, a taxi stopped. Aiden, my youngest brother, stepped out, looking much more mature and healthier than before. He waved to Raphael and me with a radiant smile. He was safe, studying at Tulane University, pursuing his dreams without having to fear the family's shadow anymore. On his wrist, he still wore a secret message bracelet I had taught him since childhood, a string of beads threaded to a specific tapping rhythm, a way to signal I'm okay when words couldn't be spoken, when danger lurked. He tapped lightly on his wrist, an unspoken message to me, an affirmation that he was safe and happy. They were not good people in a fairy tale sense. They were people who had lived in the shadows, faced harsh choices, and had blood on their hands. But they chose to stop the violence at the right time, chose the path of change, of redemption. They transformed sign language, a language of silence and separation, into a sturdy bridge across the chasm of hatred, connecting hearts, communities once divided by violence and prejudice. Raphael and I looked at Aiden, then at each other, our eyes holding an unspoken promise of a future we would build together, a future of hope and peace. The lush green garden, the laughter of Julia and the bodyguards, the image of Aiden waving from afar, all created a picture of hope, of a new beginning, of a family built on love and understanding. We had redefined the concept of family and community. And amidst bustling New Orleans, full of old and new stories, a shy waitress and a reluctant kingpin found a way to love and atone, not through flowery vows or lofty ideals, but through daily actions. By listening to unspoken voices, by building bridges of understanding, and by bravely confronting the past to forge a better future. Our story is proof that, even in the darkest worlds, the light of compassion and courage can still shine, illuminating the path to salvation, to a more meaningful life. And that is the legacy of love, language, and redemption in the port city of New Orleans, a legacy that will endure forever.